question has been asked about Mark chapter 11, verses 22 through 25. Let me read it for you. So Jesus answered and said to them, "Have faith in God, for assuredly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, 'Be removed and be cast into the sea,' and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that those things he says will be done, he will have whatever he says. Therefore I say to you, whatever things you ask when you pray, believe that you receive them, and you will have them. And whenever you stand praying, if you have anything against anyone, forgive him, that your Father in heaven may also forgive you your trespasses." So what is the question? The question is, what does this mean? Well, let's begin by understanding what it can't mean first. It can't mean that if we have enough faith, we can have anything we want. For example, if you want that mountain to move, it'll move. If you want no rain, then you'll get no rain. If you want your team to win, just have faith and your team will win. You see, this kind of faith would center around us. It would be an immature, selfish faith. What if I want the mountain to move one way, while someone else wants it to move the other way? What if the beachgoers want dry skies all summer long, while the farmers are praying for rain? And suppose both teams that are playing have equal Christian support. Who should win then? Paul the Apostle prayed 3 times for a thorn in the flesh to be removed. But God told him that His grace was sufficient. Apparently, it was something Paul needed, but not something Paul necessarily wanted. So it can't mean that if we just have enough faith, that we can have whatever we want. Can you imagine a 2-year-old having the ability to spend your money anywhere he wanted, anytime, just because he has enough faith in your buying power? That's about how it would look if this text meant that. 2-year-olds with credit cards and no parameters. That would be a mess. A key is found in verse 22, where Jesus sets the parameter. He says, "Have faith in God." Now, let me mention a couple of verses before we move forward. The first verse is Psalm 37, verse 4. It says, "Delight yourself also in the Lord, and He shall give you the desires of your heart." So you delight yourself in Him first. James chapter 4, verse 3, "You ask and do not receive, because you ask amiss, that you may spend it on your pleasures." In other words, there's selfish asking going on. You see, when we have faith in God, we begin to delight ourselves in His ways, in His mission, in His plan and purpose for our life. Then our desires become desires that aren't selfish, but centered on God's will, things that help us accomplish His purposes in and through our lives. Oh, and this text has nothing to do with standing and claiming or demanding, as if that's the posture of faith. When Jesus speaks of standing and praying, He's not speaking of standing and taking authority. You see, in the Jewish culture, standing was a typical posture for prayer. To kneel and pray was a more intense posture for prayer. So this isn't even speaking about forcing things through an intense time of prayer. And what's interesting is how Jesus ties this kind of faith with the idea of forgiving others. In verse 25. And He tells them, if you have something against someone, forgive them. He didn't say go find them and tell them everything that is in your heart toward them. He simply says, forgive them. Right there in His presence. And as a result, you'll experience God's forgiveness yourself. The peace and all that comes with it, you'll experience. You do for the sake of others and according to His will, and He provides everything you need to do it. When you look at Jesus' statement in context, He's contrasting a life of faith with a life of disobedience. The fig tree produced no fruit. It was a picture of Israel, an unfruitful nation about to experience God's judgment. But He says, if you have faith in God, there will be fruit. Instead of being on the verge of collapse, you'll live a life that reveals that God is with you. some cultural background gives us insight as well. Because some sayings are cultural and not literal. Like, we need to go the extra mile, or that blows my mind. There was in Jewish literature, the Babylonian Talmud in particular, a reference to someone called the rooter up of mountains. It described a rabbi who was a very spiritual person, able to teach difficult passages and who could solve difficult riddles or problems. He was given the title rooter up of mountains. The mountain, of course, representing a problem, and the rabbi being one who could overcome the problem. So, what Jesus is saying with that background in mind is that you have faith in God. There'll be no problem you can't overcome. Nothing will stand in your way. You can do anything. In Zechariah chapter 4, Zechariah gets a vision from God where he sees a menorah. That's a 7-branched golden lampstand like was in the tabernacle or temple. In the vision, he sees above the lampstand a golden bowl with pipes that lead to 2 olive trees on either side of the lampstand, so that the olive oil is flowing directly from the olive trees into the bowl, which is feeding the lampstand. It was a self-sustaining lampstand. No need for a priest or anyone else to keep it going. And Zechariah asks, "What is this?" And the Lord tells him, "This is the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel. It's not by might, not by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord. Who are you, O great mountain? Before Zerubbabel, you will become a flat plain." In other words, God was saying, I'm going to empower Zerubbabel to lead my people so that the temple will be rebuilt. The city will be rebuilt as I have decreed. And it won't come to pass as the result of human ability and striving. The Lord is going to make sure that it gets done. And He's going to remove any obstacle so that they can live the life of faith and blessing that God intends for them. They're going to do what God has said by faith. Believe in Him. And as a result, what seems to be an impossible mountain to climb will become like a flat plain before them. The mountain will be moved. So the message for us in all this is simple. Put your faith in God. Set your heart on Him. As He works in you to remove some things, He'll begin to place godly desires in your heart which come from Him. They'll align you with His plan and purpose. You'll no longer have to strive toward things because the Lord will be leading you and He will ensure that things come to pass. Now, your part is simple. Verse 22, have faith in God. So I pray you'll really begin to trust the Lord, that you won't be held back by the mountains you think are in the way. Because with God, if the mountains are in the way, just let Him know. Have faith in God. Believe Him so that you do, like forgiving someone. And those mountains, well, they'll be removed. And that's good news, isn't it? May the Lord establish your steps and move those mountains as you seek to follow Him with all your heart. God bless.